Mic check. Yeah, so greetings again, everybody. You know what I mean? Thanks for another visit. You know what I mean? So tonight we are come with a story. You know what I mean? Where I saw on the news earlier today. You know what I mean? About a Jamaican nurse that got her tubes removed while she was in ICE custody, awaiting deportation. You see me? You know what I mean? So them remove her tubes without her knowledge. You understand? And them deport her back to Jamaica, and she left 4 children over there right now in the US. Well, she said they were in the US. You understand? So I don't know where they are right now, if they're in ICE custody also. But this is important news, people. You understand? These are the things that we should look at, you know what I mean, and scrutinize, and then seek justice from our government, that they should rectify these situations. You understand? Alright, so when you watch the clock up at top, you see the clock, I was telling you how soon the news are coming, but you know what I mean, for the meanwhile, we just go make you hear that little tape here, you know what I mean, the woman I describe how them take out her tubes, basically cut out her belly, you see it, while she was unaware that they were doing any kind of such surgery on her, you see it, and then deport her back to Jamaica, and she's a nurse. You understand? So it just goes to show how they deal with our people. You get to me and say them deal with our people away like trash. She was a nurse, you know, giving health care and service to their people, you know. And while she needed the health care, what they did was just cut out for her womb and throw her back on the island, you know what I mean? With no way of contacting back our children them, or being in touch with our children them. So we're going to play the tape, you see it? Alright, when the news will come up in shortly in the next 10 minutes, you see me?
Told her the procedure was completely unnecessary. She's originally from Jamaica, lived in the U.S. for more than 20 years, has 4 U.S.-born children. She was deported in May. Wendy, if you can tell us what happened to you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thank you so much.
September of 2018, I went to court for a traffic violation. And after that, they put I got arrested. They put an ICE hold on me. So I ended up in Irving County. I was there for a year and 6 months with stomach pain. I went in there with hypertension, and I had stomach pain, and I have a hernia. So I made a claim to the medical department, and they didn't do anything until one day. They came for me, didn't know where I was going. They woke me up 5 o'clock. And when I went there, it was Dr. Admin. He performed X-ray and a sonogram on me and told me that I got multiple cysts in me. So I asked him what that meant. He didn't answer. So after the point, he told me that I got a mass in my ovary. I'm like, what is that? He says, it's a mass that grows in your ovary. You don't know if it's cancerous, but it's a mass. I went back to the facility. I spoke to the nurses about that. They said they don't know because Dr. Admin didn't send them any type of paperwork as yet. So I think it's a couple weeks after that, they woke me up again 5 o'clock that morning.
So, you know what I mean, for those that are just coming in, you know what I mean, they did an illegal surgery on this woman, cutting out her tubes, her fallopian tubes, you know what I mean, while they claimed, you know what I mean, that she had masses growing in her womb, you understand? You know what I mean, while she's unconscious in ICE custody, awaiting deportation, you know what I mean, them cut out her tubes, and then them ship her back to Jamaica with no explanation, you understand? And she left 4 children over in the United States right now, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean, these are things that we need justice for, you know what I mean? We don't just need justice in the island, we need justice internationally whenever one of our citizens or one of our people, you know what I mean, are mistreated. You understand me? So, you know what I mean? This is a story I think everybody should look into. You know what I mean? And in any way reach out to our government. You know what I mean? To see if they can get some kind of justice for this lady, because this is effed up. You understand? This is messed up. You understand? This woman shouldn't have to be going through this right now. You understand? You know what I mean? Can you imagine somebody cut out a fallopian tube as a woman and you can't have no more pitney and them do it without your consent? You wake up and realize that them do a surgery for you and you no longer have your tubes them. You understand? This is messed up. You understand? This is injustice, and this is the way that they deal with our people. You understand? Yeah, man. Just like the video, share it. You know what I mean? Coming up shortly in the next 7 minutes. You know what I mean? We are going to live stream the news too. So, I want to just bear with me. This is a story that I think everybody should, you know what I mean, be aware of. You understand? All right.
I went to Dr. Almin again. That told me that I got a size of the cantaloupe in my ovary. That is cancerous. By then, I was like shaky and crying, and I asked him, you know, what caused this, and he said he can't tell me because he was hired through ICE and he got to send the paperwork back to the facility. So when I went back to the facility, I spoke to the nurses, sent multiple papers to them, multiple papers. They never answer until I think this is a cause of the stress that I couldn't see out of my eyes. My blood pressure was all the way up.
Remember to like the video, you know what I mean, and share.
Lost, and next morning again they came, another morning, 5 o'clock, told me I'm going to the doctor. I thought it was for what I was going through. When I went to the doctor, they told me I had surgery. But basically what I'm going through, I was like out of my mind and wasn't, concentrating on what they were saying because I had headache, couldn't see out of my eyes or anything.
So the doctor cut your fallopian tubes?
Yeah, when I woke up, I noticed that I couldn't wake up at all because I was on anesthesia.
So them basically drug her up, without her knowledge, you know what I mean? And cut out her fallopian tubes. You know what I mean? If you know about the fallopian tubes, that help in reproduction. You understand? So now the woman can't have no more pitney. And she never give them the permission to do this. You understand? This is how they deal with our people. You know what I mean? When we are in their custody. You understand? The same way they have the Mexicans in cages. You understand? We Jamaicans go through the same thing when they are about to deport us. So the ICE organization pick up this woman for a traffic violation. You know what I mean? Had her in custody for over a year. You understand? Perform an illegal surgery on this lady. You understand? And after they did that, almost killing this woman because she said she wake up and she never feel good. You understand? And she have questions which they didn't want to answer. You understand? After them do the whole of that, them ship her to Jamaica. You understand? Leaving our children, our 4 children, one of them which are disabled in the United States right now. So tell me what you want to say about this? You understand? Them free have to stop. And we need somebody who stand up when this thing happen to Jamaican people. Who are these people? What is our government doing about this? We not hear Andrew Holness, we not hear opposition say nothing about this. May I watch news tonight and see what them are going to say now? You understand? Because this is a nurse. You understand? This is a nurse. This is a person who gave health care, you know what I mean, to people over in the United States. And this is the way they treated her and deport her back to her country. Basically throwing her out of the country after they did this injustice to her. You get what me I say? Yo, sure.
When I went back to the facility, I didn't know as yet. I noticed there were 3 holes in my stomach. So I was asking them, what is this? They say I got surgery, but they don't know what type of surgery I had. After request the medical paper, they brought it back to me. That's when I know that my fallopian tubes was out.
And then how much later were you deported to Jamaica, where we're speaking to now in Kingston?
After that, I think it was a couple months after that.
And your kids still in the United States? They are U.S. citizens?
They were in the United States with a friend. I had a 11-year-old that she's disabled. I had a 14-year-old at the time. She's turned 14 now, but she was 12, and I had a 15-year-old. So they were with a friend at the time.
I wanted to go, Wendy, back.
Her question, like, how was the doctor?
Can you tell me, Elizabeth, what you're old and you haven't seen her since she was 4 months? Is that right?
Correct. Yes, that's right. I have not seen her. What I want out of
Many women are telling your story. Wendy, you're deported as Elizabeth is inside the jail. You were held there until you were sent back, having been sterilized by the doctor. Now, what are you calling for?
I'm calling for the shutdown of Erin County. I'm calling for change. People with minor offense that's been in the country for decades. People that don't know, like your country, even though you're born there, you don't know the country. People don't go through the same thing like we went through, because I got 4 U.S. citizen children and my children went through hell. I'm in Jamaica now. They can't get the doctor help they need. Financially, I can't support them. When my daughter got Medicaid in America, she got Medicaid because she's a disabled child. They can't get the education they needed here because they're not from here. I already got American citizens that die in Jamaica because of the health care, and I don't want the same thing to happen to my children.
I want to go finally back to Azadeh Shashahani.
All right, as you can hear, you see me? The woman left 4 children up in the United States, and me notice she say they were. So me I wonder if them in either ICE custody or them back here or them send them somewhere. Where them could have send them? Which part them could have send them? You get to me I say? They were in the US. US big, and that's where them come from, If they're not in the US, where did they send the woman pitney them? Yo, me I watch the news tonight, and I go see what them I go say about this. You understand? Alright, we are heading over to the news right now. Remember to like and share. You get what me I say? Yeah, man. Wanna blow up the chat. This woman, she's a nurse in the US. You understand? And them cut out her tubes because them put her into ICE custody because she had a traffic violation. Cut out her tubes and ship her back to Jamaica. Alright.
Sports commentary, E-Prime and weather. But before the break, the feedback question.
Our question this evening: do you think some people are treated unfairly in the enforcement of the Disaster Risk Management Act?
You can share your comments online, facebook.com/Television Jamaica, and tweet @TelevisionJam.
Please stay tuned. Primetime News returns right after this break.
Alright, so the news so forward back, you know what I mean? This is the commercial break part of the thing. So, you know what I mean? I'm going to pull up back that tape here. We're not going to get for hear what go on with that lady here. You see it? We have another story we want to touch upon. Fortunately, the news are going to cover both story. At least I hope the news cover this one. You understand? What happened to this lady is that she lived in the United States for 20 years. You understand? Having 4 US citizens, children. She had a traffic violation. They put her into ICE custody. I don't know if she was illegal or legal. You understand? I know that she wasn't a US citizen, it seemed. But she was a nurse. You understand? She was a nurse. Alright, so watch her now. Boop. Them had her in ICE custody for a year. 1 whole year them have her in a ICE custody, 1 whole year. See? Almost have her in prison for a traffic violation. You understand? Then now, them start some doctor from nowhere who work for ICE or them are contracted by ICE come to us do a test on her and I tell her, say, yo, she have pellets in her reproductive system. You understand? Then now she have to do surgery all after a sudden. You get what me I say? Then now she go in a surgery. When she wake up, them cut out her tubes. You get what me I say? Cut out the woman tubes. Now she can't have no pitney. And when she asks, Wagwan, no one to answer. You understand? And then what them do after that? Send her back to Jamaica. You know what I feel like this is? I feel them cut out. I feel she never have no problem to begin with. Them cut out her tubes. This is my interpretation of this. Because I don't see the reason why you won't answer the woman questions. See? Cut out her very healthy tubes. See? Take out her organ basically, and ship her back to Jamaica. You know what I mean? Basically did a organ harvesting on a Jamaican citizen. You understand? That's what I'm looking at this as, You know what I mean? Yo, may I tell you, man, trust me. So what is our government is gonna do about this? Seeing this is no regular citizen, This is a caretaker. This is a woman that was a nurse in the US. You understand? Our government should come out hard and require some kind of, justice for their citizens. You know what I mean? From the US. You know what I mean? Because this is an injustice to a Jamaican citizen. You understand? To our people. Make we see if our government really stand for our people. We are going to figure this thing out. We are going to see tonight, yeah. You know what I mean? That is if them hear it back on the news, because guess what going on upon the midday news, me see this. You understand? So, not more than them, we show it back on tonight news, is it? So, we see what our government have to say about this. You know what I mean? Remember, this is the channel for solutions, We don't just bring up story and then we don't seek out the solution. You know what I mean? We know the solution to this, But we just have to see if other solutions exist. Alright, back to the news.
On onespotmedia.com. The opposition is this evening blasting the government for taking too long to shut down the Lime and Maiden Keys. The shutdown was announced Monday, following a TVJ News report on Sunday highlighting yacht parties and flagrant COVID-19 control breaches at Maiden Key. The opposition spokesman on health says this has taken too long, but the local government minister says not so. Giovanni Dennis has this primetime news follow-up.
Widespread outrage at the weekend that scores of yacht operators were gathering in numbers, some drinking and raving to music, breaching the disaster risk management order prohibiting such gatherings. The story was highlighted in a TVJ report Sunday, and by Monday, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management announced the closure of both Lime and Maiden Keys. But this should have happened before, so says opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Maurice Guy.
It suggests that they have not been proactive enough. Just making the announcement without properly monitoring the situation does not lend itself to proper governance. We would have expected that the government, having announced that the beaches would be closed, that there should, at the very basic level, some cursory patrolling of the areas by the security forces. Maiden Key and Lime Key, we know, are two of the beaches in Jamaica, albeit they are small islands off the coast. What seems to be happening is that there is a suggestion there are two Jamaicas, one for those who are affluent and one for the less affluent.
But the local government minister is defending the government's response.
We have been very proactive and we have been taking actions. The situation across the two keys as something that has been featured in the media quite recently. Just recently, this has been getting the kind of publicity. I mean, it's not every day people go out there, so it is difficult for us to get information on those locations. And once we get the information, we have taken the actions which are necessary. This is not a time to be critical of decisions that the government is taking in the fight against the coronavirus. This is a time when all the measures by the government should be supported without any hint of being sarcastic in the comments.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, in the meantime, insists the government acts promptly when issues like these rise to the level of a public health concern.
From a public health perspective, we tend to assess situations. We have seen a number of activities, even though the protocols are out. We continue to monitor the environment. When issues become a problem, which requires intervention in that direct way, then we intervene. My own view is that in the case of this particular situation, persons have always gone to that facility to relax, and it's something that is allowed. Once it became a challenge in terms of the numbers, and the risks associated with those numbers, then the authorities intervene.
Dr. Guy, in the meantime, wants the announced ticketing system implemented urgently. He argues people will continue to breach COVID restrictions unless and until they are forced to pay.
I queried of the Prime Minister in relation to my asking what about this ticketing system that was announced from September of last year. To date, we do not have it. All we have been told is that the Ministry of Justice, the Attorney General's Department, are looking into this. We need to have that part of the legislation up and running, and unless people start paying where it hurts most in terms of their pockets, then we will continually have this flagrant disregard for the rules.
In response to the concerns, Mr. Mackenzie disclosed that tougher laws are now being drafted.
We are going to be getting tough, more punitive. But in the meantime, the security forces are doing what they can. But, let's be frank, it is the people that have to buy in and to police this. It's not just for the police.
Giovanni Dennis, TVJ News.
In the meantime, the government is once again insisting there's no double standard in its approach to managing the COVID-19 pandemic. Local Government Minister Desmond Mackenzie says he will be the first to apologize if people feel mistreated, but argues that there's no such directive from the administration.
This government, we are not in any shape or form displaying any preferential treatment to any sector of the society when it comes on to enforcing the regulations under the Disaster Risk Act. We're not. I will challenge anybody to say that there is any directive at all coming from the administration as to how to treat a sector of the society. One shoes fit everybody in this country. If people feel offended or hurt by that, I will.
So, you not arrest the people them on the yacht?
Administration has never, will never.
And you chew up more than 10 man up in a truck in a Clarendon with you. Double standards, man.
To the latest COVID-19 figures now, Jamaica recorded 20 new confirmed cases of the coronavirus on Monday. This pushes the country's tally of confirmed cases to 12,752. St. James and Trelawney recorded 8 cases each on Monday. The other 4 were in Westmoreland. The local death toll remains at 298. 26 deaths are still under investigation. 78 persons are hospitalized with the respiratory illness. 8 are critically ill.
To other news now, the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, says it is not in agreement with the move to cut temporary teachers this Thursday. In a media release yesterday, it was announced that temporary employees at public schools will be let go. Prince Moore has details.
As part of preparation efforts for the resumption of face-to-face classes in all schools come January, the Ministry of Education said it would have provided additional staffing support for schools for the academic year 2020-2021. But due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, that plan may never come to fruition. As the ministry says, the reopening of schools did not go as planned. As a result, the ministry says the engagement of temporary staff would not be supported beyond December 31, and argues that based on the length of their contracts, the teachers have already made plans.
I was also thinking that there is going to be even greater need for these teachers, given that we are moving into more phased reopening of schools for face-to-face. And even without that, the teachers have been gainfully employed and engaged online, giving a lot of support to the process. And so, like I said, when we have further discussions, we are confident that we'll be able to get more clarity and to bring this situation to an amicable solution.
With just a few days left before the resumption of the new academic year, the JTA president says he would not have expected cuts at this time.
They are now being informed with less than 2 weeks to go before the start of a new term that their services would be terminated. And so we have already initiated talks with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. We believe that, something needs to be worked out in a more amicable way for these teachers. The fact is they would have been supporting the online teaching and learning process as well as face-to-face duties. And if it is that their services would no longer be required, certainly we would expect a longer period of notice, at least 2 weeks.
The JTA has already reached out to the ministry to discuss the matter. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, amidst the brewing unease, less than a week before schools are scheduled to reopen, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information says it is in the final stages of assessing Monday's reopening. When contacted earlier today, the Education Ministry told TVJ News that the plan is currently being put together for the January school term. The ministry added that details of the guidelines, protocols, and the number of additional schools, if any, that will be conducting face-to-face classes will be provided in a media release before the end of the week. After the island-wide school lockdown in March, 17 public schools reopened in the first phase of face-to-face school on November 10. Later that month, the ministry said more than 100 additional schools were assessed as ready for face-to-face learning for the January 2021 school term.
Still to come this evening, stakeholders in fisheries sector promised duties relief. And in business news, Tourism Minister tells TVJ News when cruise ships will be back.
Alright, so every time a commercial break come, I will go over to the story and another story. See? Well, I will just discuss the next story. Them cover it a while ago. So, alright, what I go do, I will just address it. Alright, so the yacht party we keep, don't remember we. See? Be a white faces, you know what I mean? Be a tourist, you know what I mean? Police, Coast Guard come down on the party. I don't know them a break curfew and the social distance orders, right? No one was arrested, No one was arrested because these are high society people. You know what I mean? No. When name the brother, the black brother, I said there is no double standard, but you can clearly see the double standards. You know what I mean? You saying something and doing something is two different things, Because the people them in a Maypen Clarendon will break the curfew orders, You throw them up in a van and carry them to station, go lock them up, Even the old man, the Rasta man, lock him up, the old man, But when white people are dance on yacht and boat, you know what I mean? Rich white people are dance on yacht and boat. You know what I mean? When you give them a slap on the wrist, when you give them a warning, but why you never give the people them in a Maypen a warning? A double standards. A two different laws in a Jamaica. You know see it? You understand? And then you want to say there's no double standards. And like you want to put back the blame upon the people them who realize that there's a double standards. You understand? I thought, but this is not the time for negative comments and one bag of thing. You know what I mean? Negative comments are going to come because now do negative things. You understand? Alright, so I'm not going to dwell too long upon that. Zin? Watch you now. Back to the story with the nurse. So this lady is a nurse in the United States, or was a nurse in the United States. You know what I mean? She got arrested for a traffic violation. Listen, a nurse, Them put her in a ICE custody for a year, basically put her in a prison. The same cages are the same places where them have the Mexican babies them in a cage. And that's where them put the woman. You know what I mean? Basically lock her up in a prison. During the process of time, a doctor came who is contracted by ICE because the organization will lock up immigrants is called ICE. Zin? During the process of that, right? Alright, we'll go back to the news. We'll address that shortly.
Sector are being promised duties relief similar to those enjoyed by manufacturers. The Agriculture and Fisheries Minister Floyd Green believes the move could stimulate the fast-growing fish farming business in the country. The success story from agriculture in COVID-19. That's how Agriculture and Fisheries Minister Floyd Green views aquaculture, in particular fish farming. According to the minister, the industry has grown during the pandemic, and that is not something many areas of agriculture can boast. The minister was speaking on a tour of a fish farm in Clarendon on Monday. He's assessing ways to increase the output of the fish farming business in order to meet the growing local and foreign demand.
If you ask me what are some of the opportunities that COVID have brought for our agriculture and fisheries sector, aquaculture will be one of those tremendous opportunities. And what we're seeing by Mr. Bunting's experience is that we're seeing at least a 50% to 100% increase in demand for these freshwater fish. And as such, we need to be able to satisfy that demand.
Players in the fish farming and the fisheries sector are also being promised incentives to ensure the sector continues to grow.
What I've said to the National Fisheries Authority, one, we have to provide customs with people who are registered so that they know the bona fide people who are treated in the fisheries sector. Once that is provided, then all the sort of relief that we provide to other industries, such as manufacturing, that has to be provided for those in agriculture and in fishing.
And come next year, Jamaicans will also be asked to include more tilapia in their diet as the farmers are increasing their production of the fish. In addition, the Minister of Agriculture says he'll be exploring mentorship programs between schools and aquaculture farmers.
When you tell somebody and when you actually see it in operation, it gives you a much different feel. Right? And I think it would be good at various levels, starting with some of the people who are already in fish farming, who are at the lower level, to see how you can move, transition, and reach where Mr. Bunting is, and also starting with some of our students, our children, right? Because again, if you're going to change the culture around anything, the earlier you start, the better.
President of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Alliance, Donovan Wignall, is calling for an increase in the US $50 duty-free limit for online shopping. Speaking this morning on TVJ Smile Jamaica, Mr. Wignall explained that since the onset of COVID-19, more persons have engaged in online shopping. Therefore, the limit should be increased to $100 US.
We're unable to travel, and as I said before, it's a matter of give and take. The Customs Department not doing badly, to be honest with you. Revenues are down all across the board, public sector and private sector, and we get a burden a little bit across the board. So going to $100 is a nice way of helping out the purchasing public. It's not too impacting our local businesses. Our local businesses have pivoted to online shopping as well. But it's a nice place to be, $100. A lot more people will be able to afford to shop online.
Mr. Wignall also raised concern about the consolidating of shipments less than $50 US each and charging duty. He says the cost of shipments should be predictable and not left to the discretion of the Customs Department.
In that area, it's treated as discretionary by the Customs Department, and very often they do give the allowance of de minimis for the commercial shipments. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but it would be good if it just becomes a rule where your costs are predictable. You know exactly how much you're going to pay, and it's not left up to the discretion of the customs.
The Ministry of National Security is dismissing reports of human rights abuses at the St. Catherine Adult Correctional Center. Callers to TVJ News reported hunger strikes this morning, claiming some prisoners were being abused by warders. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of National Security, Matthew Samuda, says targeted operations are taking place, but is insisting nothing out of the ordinary is happening.
There is no hunger strike, there is no fracas, no riot, nothing taking place at the St. Catherine Adult Correctional Facility. And I've been in contact with the Deputy Commissioner, Dr. Thomas, who is acting on behalf of Commissioner Rowe. I've spoken to the Director of Security. No such thing is taking place.
And what exactly happened at the facility, to be clear?
One of the mill security operations.
You care to explain any further?
No, the truth is the prisons are secure facilities that go through regular security operations, and different areas are focused on depending on the risk, and operations are underway. But to go further, I invite and I've instructed the Deputy Commissioner to invite INDICOM and to invite the Public Defender's Office to come.
Now, with a few days remaining in the year, data released by the Police High Command show that the country's murder tally now stands at 1,301. However, This is 25 fewer than the 1,326 murders recorded over the same period last year. Over the past few weeks, the police have been conducting daily operations island-wide, targeting havens for gunmen and searching for suspects wanted for murders, shootings, and other serious crimes. 6 of the 19 police divisions have recorded increases in murders this year. The St. Andrews South Division has recorded the most homicides with 141, followed by St. Catherine North with 125, St. James with 121, St. Catherine South 111, Clarendon 103, and St. Andrews Central with 98.
While on the international scene, a powerful earthquake rocks parts of central Croatia.
Alright, we're up on the commercial break again. You understand? We're so forward back. As soon as the commercial finish, we are come straight back to the news. Alright, but in the meanwhile, back to this story. So, this woman, you know what I mean, this nurse, right? She was in ICE custody for a year for a traffic violation, and they cut out her tubes while she was in, you know what I mean, in ICE custody. You know what I mean? And then them ship her back to Jamaica. We have a play a little bit tight right now, you know what I mean? Because the commercial, them are, you know what I mean? Them up on us, you understand? So like, yeah, bear with me a little bit. Hold on, get a hang of this, you see it? Hold on, give me a second, the people. You see me? Well, I may have some technical difficulties, but you know what I mean? I'm going to try solve it. But in the meanwhile, how the story go is, you know what I mean? The woman, she got brought into ICE custody. You know what I mean? She was a nurse in the United States, right? She have 4 children over there in the United States. You know what I mean? She got brought over into ICE custody because she had a traffic violation. You know what I mean? You know what them do? Them lock up the woman for a year. 1 whole year them lock up the woman for, you see me? Then, after a sudden a doctor came to her and I tell her, say, yo, them need to do some, you know what I mean, some tests. When them do the test, them claim, me I say, you know, them claim, say the woman have, you know what I mean, some kind of pellets in her womb, you know what I mean, in her fallopian tubes and them thing there, you see it? Alright, boom. Them say she have to go do surgery. You know, remember them thing here come as a shock to the woman, you know. You know what I mean? Without our knowledge, the people them cut out the woman fallopian tubes. Them they have to do with reproduction. So now the woman can't have no picnic. She wake up in the morning, she say 3 holes in her stomach. And she asks them what go on. You know what I mean? Them tell her say them do surgery upon her and 1 bag of something, you see it? Cut out our tubes and 1 bag of thing. But we are going back over to the news, you know what I mean? I'll try to solve this problem, you know what I mean, where this video is given. You know what I mean? I'm going to pre the video. Or you can go pre the video, it's up on my channel, you know what I mean? It's titled Nurse, Jamaican nurse deported after forcefully removing her fallopian tubes. You understand? So you can watch it over on the channel. Back to the news.
Been affected by this issue.
However, the Accountant General's Department says all 32,000 pensioners who submitted certificates received payments on December 16. According to Director of Communication and Customer Service at the Accountant General's Department, Tanisha Weir Grant, a grace period was given for the life certificates to be presented, and these persons were paid up to the end of November.
Because we understand the challenges that our pensioners face, we allowed an additional 2 months for them to submit their life certificates. So this means for the month of October and November 2020, pensioners would continue to receive their payments if it is that they submitted their September quarter life certificate. So providing that they did not submit a life certificate up to the first week of December, those were the persons that would have been suspended.
The Accountant General's Department is urging pensioners to contact the department if they had difficulties submitting a life certificate for the October to December period. Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
A Jamaican woman is among 35 U.S. immigrants who have filed a class action suit against the U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement Irwin County Detention Center.
All right, this is the story.
They were subjected to non-consensual and invasive gynecological procedures. The surgeries were later found to be unnecessary and left some of the women unable to have children. Now, we must warn you that some viewers may find some of the descriptions offensive. Giovanni Dennis has the details.
Jamaican-born Wendy Doe is among dozens of women claiming medical abuse by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Ms. Doe has been deported to Jamaica since May this year, but is among more than 40 women filing a class action suit against ICE. She was detained after going to court to pay a traffic ticket in 2018. After being at the Irwin County facility for more than a year, she reported stomach pains. That's when her medical hell started.
So I made a claim to the medical department, and they didn't do anything until one day. They came for me, didn't know where I was going. They woke me up 5 o'clock. And when I went there, it was Dr. Admin. He performed X-ray and a sonogram on me and told me that I got multiple cysts in me. So I asked him what that meant. He didn't answer.
She asked the nurses at the facility for answers, but didn't get any. It was after a second visit to the doctor that she was told that there were masses in her ovary that appeared cancerous.
I couldn't see out of my eyes. My blood pressure was all the way up, and my vision was lost. And next morning again, they came, another morning, 5 o'clock, told me I'm going to the doctor. I thought it was for what I was going through. When I went to the doctor, they told me I had surgery. But basically what I'm going through, I was like out of my mind and wasn't, concentrating on what they were saying because I had headache, couldn't see out of my eyes or anything.
After the surgery and the persistent queries, she was advised that her fallopian tubes had been removed. This means she cannot have more children.
When I woke up, I noticed that I couldn't wake up at all because I was on anesthesia. When I went back to the facility, I didn't know as yet. I noticed there were 3 holes in my stomach. So I was asking them, what is this? They say I got surgery, but they don't know what type of surgery I had. After request the medical paper, they brought it back to me. That's when I know that my fallopian tubes was out.
Ms. Doe was deported shortly after, leaving her children in the U.S., including an 11-year-old who is disabled. She is also seeking to have her deportation overturned. Project South is working with the immigrants claiming abuse.
So this recent lawsuit that Project South filed along with our partners, the National Immigration Project of the National Lawyers Guild, Immigrants' Rights Clinic at Columbia Law, David Dreyer, and several other law school clinics, is a class action lawsuit filed on behalf of women detained at Irvin who have been subjected to invasive and non-consensual gynecological procedures, that is medical abuse.
Check the channel for the full interview with the lady, isn't it? Yeah, man, it's on my channel.
Sworn testimony in court, despite consistent attempts by ICE to silence them.
Ms. Doe was deported in May after her surgery.
Scores of vendors in Anata Bay, St. Mary are this evening counting their losses after a fire destroyed their goods, putting a damper on their livelihood. More in this report.
The aftermath of a fire along Main Street and Anata Bay, St. Mary Tuesday morning. Debris everywhere. The fire, which occurred in the wee hours of the morning, destroyed shops, goods and furniture, among other things. Charlene Hales told our news team she was alerted by a neighbor who saw smoke coming from a section of the building.
So I go to Bam, so throw a key game. And he said, if you come now, so I draw and sit, so I come out, I see my run with one jug. So I come in the shop, see over the side there, one little circle of fire. But it's a blaze, you know.
That little fire spread quickly, and before she knew it, most of her belongings were engulfed in flames.
If me have more help, I see everything went over that side, because fire mostly over there. So when I say, go me take out the fridge, in go in and I say, eat. So me go in and I try draw out the fridge, check out the fridge, and me can't manage it. So me just come and bend down right at the shop door, because out of so now no fire, you know. I shop door and I watch. It's something them shelf will go up in a flames.
Veronica Eastwood told a similar story. She's happy no lives were lost, but she's also trying to estimate the cost of the damage.
We have to go start all over back again because we can't throw down. And my livelihood. Unless me have to go do else thing. I mean, me whole nobody know I'm for work for them.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation. In the meantime, the vendors who operate in the area say this was not how they imagined the year would end.
So we'd like a help who can help us put it back on foot. Plus my friend Faith has lost her shop and her goods, and Veronica Eastwood has lost her shop and her goods too.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
It's time now for the responses from our friends on social media to our feedback question. This evening we have been asking, do you think some people are treated unfairly in the enforcement of the Disaster Risk Management Act? Our first response from Damien, who says, total double standard. It's classism at its best. Another one from Alex, who says, yes, definitely, no doubt. I think the societal norms has contributed to that. Gomez says, yes, and it is obvious.
Obvious.
Debo, most definitely, locals pay the penalty, foreigners get stern warning.
You see.
Charmaine says, yes, the upper class is treated better and they contribute the same danger if protocols are not followed. Harvey says, equal lick for everyone. Akila says, but we know this. The upper class gets a slap on the wrist and the lower class gets hung with a rope. Who said classism and colorism isn't a problem in Jamaica? Our question again, do you think some people are treated unfairly in the enforcement of the Disaster Risk Management Act? Keep your comments coming, facebook.com/televisionjamaica, or you can tweet us at Television Jam. The Business Day and news from overseas are after the break. Please stay with us.
All right.
But they increasingly are.
All right, we're back on a commercial break. See? We soon forward back as soon as the news forward back in. We are go back to the news and we don't go nowhere. You understand? So we are going to make that story play out a little bit so you can see what go on. Them cut out the woman, you know what I mean, reproductive system and deport her to Jamaica basically for a traffic violation.
Increasingly are. We're going to go right now to Wendy Dow, who's testified that while she was detained at Irwin, Dr. Amin told her she had large cysts and pushed her to get a hysterectomy, which she refused, but he still performed a surgery that left her unable to have children. Doctors later told her the procedure was completely unnecessary. She's originally from Jamaica.
Remember to go to isupk.com, you know what I mean? Go download the app. Go to ISUPK on YouTube and Facebook, you know what I mean? All of these, you know what I mean? All the knowledge that, you know what I mean? You need over at ISUPK. Check out ISUPK Jamaica, you know what I mean? Subscribe, like, share, you understand?
Lived in the U.S. for more than 20 years, has 4 U.S.-born children. She was deported in May. Wendy, if you can tell us what happened to you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thank you so much.
September of 2018, I went to court for a traffic violation. And after that, they put, I got arrested. They put an ICE hold on me. So I ended up in Irwin County. I was there for a year and 6 months with stomach pain. I went in there with hypertension. And I had stomach pain and I have a hernia. So I made a came to the medical department, and they didn't do anything until one day. They came for me, didn't know where I was going. They woke me at 5 o'clock, and when I went there, it was Dr. Admin. He performed X-ray and a sonogram on me and told me that I got multiple cysts in me. So I asked him what that meant.
All right, the news forward back, so we'll go back over to the news. Is it?
We're expecting that cruise will come back. Very slow, but...
Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett opening up on the beleaguered cruise shipping industry, which has been stuck in the port and remained stagnant, even as the rest of the tourism sector has opened up.
2 stops in the Falmouth area in March.
A move which he said will enable the return of economic activity, especially in Falmouth, which depends on cruise shipping.
Well, I wouldn't say them. The truth is that we have been suffering. The economy of Ocho-Rios, Falmouth in particular, and definitely some of Montego Bay. With this, last night you carried a big story with our poor cousins, the graph vendors in Montego Bay, struggling, suffering because no visitors. And their mainstay is cruise.
But cruise ships were part of the problem regarding COVID-19 in the early stages of the pandemic. Ships were like petri dishes for the virus. The impact has been devastating. An industry projected to earn $150 billion and transport 32 million passengers in 2020 quickly ran aground. Cruise ships being moored offshore, unable to dock, became an early symbol of the coronavirus's global spread. And as 2020 draws to a close, ships are yet to start sailing in the numbers they once did. And when they do, things will be different.
They have reconfigured in a lot of cases. The protocols are now very rigorous with the cruise ships. As a matter of fact, the CDC gave them a 74-point protocol program to respond to in order for them to get their approval to sail. So a lot of heavy work has been done in this area, and what is left is for us in the destinations now to reconfigure our whole arrangements to ensure that we can carry through the protocols on our side, that the balance would be there.
These should lead to changes in how cruises are operated on the high seas to ensure they do not become a cluster of COVID cases again. On land, how cruise passengers are handled will also change. Unlike in pre-COVID-19 times, greater burden will be placed on the cruise lines to account for their passengers' whereabouts to ensure they do not contract the disease in any of the destinations and to take it back on board where it can spread like wildfire.
It brings a challenge now to what you call the independents who operate. That is those who are not in tour operating groups and so on. But they would park at the cruise pier and pick up passengers who wouldn't have planned itineraries. You see, those now at risk.
He said these small players will be brought on board to ensure they continue to benefit from the cruise industry. But for those who think reopening cruise is a wrong move at this time, Mr. Bartlett had this message.
It's foolhardy to argue that don't bring anybody because it's going to cause this or cause that. Because if you don't bring anybody, you're going to die anyway from starvation. So you take your pick. Is it starvation or COVID? Or can you be able to live with both if you plan properly and execute efficiently?
Dashin Hendricks, TVJ News.
Currency trading ended today with the US dollar selling for $142.61. The Canadian dollar is going for $109.29. The pound sterling is going for $190.75, while the euro costs $176.68. The JC index ended lower for the first time in 4 days today, closing down 550 points, while the junior market index was unchanged. The best performing stocks of the day were 138 Student Living, Salada Foods, Trans-Jamaican Highway 8% preference shares, iCreate, and Epley. On the losing end were Signos Credit Investments US dollar shares, Jetcon, Kingston Wharves, Wigton Wind Farm, and MPC Caribbean Clean Energy. And that's the Business Day international stories when we return. Please stay with us.
So after the point.
All right, so the news so forward back here. So we don't go nowhere. You understand? We're going to do this every time we go on a commercial break. You understand? But this story is equally interesting. This woman's fallopian tubes were removed while she was in ICE custody. You understand? And then them just deport her. You understand? Back to Jamaica.
He told me that I got a mass in my ovary. I'm like, what is that? He says, it's a mass that grows in your ovary. You don't know if it's cancerous, but it's a mass. I went back to the facility. I spoke to the nurses.
All right, we're back up on the news.
Health authorities from around the world have said the variant does not appear to be more deadly than previously identified COVID-19 strains. And further afield, a powerful earthquake rocked parts of central Croatia on Tuesday. We have the details from the CNN.
USGS, the United States Geological Survey, has this recorded as a 6.4 magnitude earthquake, and to put that in perspective, says it is the strongest earthquake to hit Croatia since the advent of modern seismic measuring instruments, Hala. Now, it hit in the central region of Croatia, just 3 kilometers from the town of Petrinja, 20 to 30,000 population in the town of Petrinja. You heard what our reporter from affiliate N1 on the ground said. 1 loss of life to be deplored at this stage. But Hala, you and I both know, unfortunately and sadly, how this thing goes with earthquakes is that it takes a few hours for the full extent of the damage, including loss of life, to be revealed, because you need emergency services to go through the rubble. That is what is happening right now. The Prime Minister tweeted that all national resources were being mobilized, and that includes help from the military. So they're focusing on the flashpoint town of Petrinja right now, you know, removing the rubble, finding victims, any potential victims. The priority right now, Hala, of course, is saving lives.
And the Primetime News package continues with sports right after this break.
Admin didn't send them.
All right, back on the break. So when the commercial done, we'll go back over to sports. You understand?
Any type of paperwork says yet.
Remember to go to ISUPK on YouTube and Facebook. Subscribe, you know what I mean? Watch your classes. We have the solutions, you know what I mean?
So I think it's a couple weeks after that, they woke me up again 5 o'clock that morning. I went to Dr. Almin again. That told me that I got a size of the cantaloupe in my ovary. That is cancerous. By then I was like shaky and crying, and I asked him, you know, what caused this, and he said he can't tell me because he was hired through ICE and he got to send the paperwork back to the facility. So when I went back to the facility, I spoke to the nurses, sent multiple papers to them, multiple papers. They never answer until I think this is a cause of the stress that I couldn't see out of my eyes. My blood pressure was all the way up and my vision was lost. And next morning again, they came, another morning, 5 o'clock, told me I'm going to the doctor. I thought it was for what I was going through. When I went to the doctor, they told me I had surgery. But basically what I'm going through, I was like out of my mind and wasn't, concentrating on what they were saying because I had headache, couldn't see out of my eyes or anything.
So the doctor cut your fallopian tubes?
Yeah, when I woke up, I noticed that I couldn't wake up at all because I was on anesthesia. When I went back to the facility, I didn't know as yet. I noticed there were 3 holes in my stomach. So I was asking them, what is this? They say I got surgery, but they don't know what type of surgery I had. After request the medical paper, they brought it back to me. That's when I know that my fallopian tubes was out.
And then how much later were you deported to Jamaica, where we're speaking to you now in Kingston?
After that, I think it was a couple months after that.
And your kids still in the United States? They are U.S.
They
citizens?
were in the United States with a friend. I had a 11-year-old that she's disabled. I had a 14-year-old at the time. She's turned 14 now, but she was 12. And I had a 15-year-old. So they were with a friend at the time.
I wanted to go, Wendy, back.
Her question, how was the doctor? Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me, Elizabeth, what...
All right, I'll go back over to the news now, isn't it?
Good evening, I'm Spencer Darlington. We've got the details on those and more coming up after the break.
All right, so we can go back over.
...seen her
right,
since
so
she was
sports
4 months, is that right?
Correct. Yes, that's right.
Remember to like the video, you know what I mean? Subscribe, share, you know what I mean? Big up to everybody who are joining tonight, you know what I mean?
Wendy,
Yeah,
you're
support is
deported
really
as Elizabeth
appreciated,
is
I
inside the jail. You were held there until you were sent back, having been sterilized by the same doctor. Wendy Dow, what are you calling for?
I'm calling for the shutdown of Erin County. I'm calling for changes. People with minor offense, people that's been in the country for decades, people that don't know, your country, even though you're born there, you don't know the country. People don't go through the same thing like we went through, because I got 4 U.S. citizen children and my children went through hell. I'm in Jamaica now. They can't get the doctor help they need. Financially, I can't support them. When my daughter got Medicaid in America, she got Medicaid because she's a disabled child. They can't get the education they needed here because they're not from here. I already got American citizens that die in Jamaica because of the health care, and I don't want the same thing to happen to my children.
I want to go finally back to Azadeh Shashahani.
All right, as you can hear, you know what I mean, the woman, she in distress because, can you imagine, just for a traffic violation, you understand? Just for a simple traffic violation, you go into ICE custody for a year, 1 whole year. See, like you're in a prison. For a traffic violation, you know what I mean? Them don't send you guy your yard immediately, them have you in jail, basically. You understand? You have 4 children for take care of, you know. You understand? 4 children for take care of. Only to find out now, them are going to do surgery for you, cut out your fallopian tubes, and then them ship you back to Jamaica. It's like them did want to do the woman arm before them ship her back to Jamaica. You understand me? Boy, may I tell you, man, now our children, them there in the US, or she said they were. So I don't know which part them send her pitney them now. You understand? And she stuck in Jamaica. What our government are going to do about this now? We need justice.
Days has named depleted squads without regular captains Jason Holder and Kyron Pollard to play 2 test matches and 3 one-day internationals in Bangladesh starting next month. Jamaica's Jermaine Blackwood has been named vice captain of the test squad.
A total of 10 regular members across both the test and one-day international squads have opted out of the West Indies tour of Bangladesh due to what has been listed by Cricket West Indies as COVID-19 related concerns. Captain Jason Holder is among those who have opted out of the test squad, along with Roston Chase, who was his deputy on the recent tour of New Zealand. Darren Bravo, Shamar Brooks, Shea Hope and Shimron Hetmeyer have also opted out, while Shane Darridge is unavailable due to personal reasons. Jamaica's Jermaine Blackwood, who was recalled to the test squad on the tour of England in June after 3 years, has been named as a deputy to Barbadian Craig Brathwaite for the tour. John Campbell and Nkrumah Bonner are the 2 other Jamaicans included in the test squad, which also sees a maiden call-up for Windward Islands all-rounder Kavem Hodge. Meanwhile, Captain Kieran Pollard is among those who have opted out of the ODI squad, along with fellow Trinidadians Evan Lewis and Nicholas Paran, as well as Jamaican fast bowler Sheldon Cottrell due to COVID-19 fares. Another Jamaican, Fabian Allen, is unavailable due to personal reasons. Fellow Jamaicans Bonner, Andre McCarthy and Rovman Powell are included in the squad, which will be led by recalled Trinidadian batsman Jason Mohammed with Sunil Ambrose as his deputy. There are also maiden call-ups for Trinidadians spinner Akil Hussain and batsman Kejorn Otley. Cricket West Indies lead selector Roger Harper says despite missing a number of key players, he's expecting both squads to be competitive.
A lot of them are very young and, as you said, have very little experience, will acquit themselves at this level, especially in foreign conditions and in tough conditions as well, against a home team that knows how to play in those conditions. So from that perspective, it's a bit of fact finding. But like I said, this bunch has a lot of very competitive players, you know, and players who will be very keen to display their skills and show what they're about and prove that they can really compete and perform at this level.
Players opting out of tours this year for the Caribbean side is not new, as all-rounder Andre Russell, Lewis...
Hey, when you watch the passing around of number in the chats, you see it. Remember, when are strangers, when you know each other, you understand? Be careful of the sharing of numbers, you understand?
The West Indies will arrive in Bangladesh on January 10 for 3 ODIs set for January 20, 22 and 25, as well as 2 test matches set for February 3 to 7 at Chattogram, as well as February 11 to 15 at Dhaka. Jermaine Brown reporting for TVJ Sports.
Meanwhile, lead selector Roger Hopper has sought to explain the rationale behind excluding exciting young Barbadian fast bowler Shemar Holder from the test squad, but not including him in the ODI squad for the tour of Bangladesh. Holder made his debut for the Windies in the second test against New Zealand earlier this month, where he took 2 for 110.
Like I mentioned a little while earlier, the composition of our squad has changed a bit because of the conditions. You notice that we have 3 specialist spinners in the squad, so someone in the bowling department had to miss out, and it happened to be Shemar. This is not anything to say that, anything against Shemar's performance at all. We expect that Shemar will be fully in the reckoning come the first home series in the Caribbean.
Shemar Holder omitted from the test squad, but he has been included in the ODI squad. West Indies test captain Jason Holder turned in a man-of-the-match performance to carry the Sydney Sixers to a nail-biting 2-wicket win over the Melbourne Renegades in the Australian Big Bash League on Monday evening. With the Sixers needing 16 of the last over to win, Holder duly obliged to get the required runs for victory, including 3 consecutive boundaries. Holder ended with an unbeaten 33 as the Sixers achieved a victory at 169 for 8 with 1 ball to spare. Another West Indian, Carlos Brathwaite, made just 4. It was Holder's final match of the season for the Sixers. India bounced back from their humiliating opening test defeat to beat host nation Australia by 8 wickets. And the home team South Africa defeated Sri Lanka by an innings and 45 runs on day 4 of the first test match at Centurion to take a 1-0 lead in their 2-match series. Resuming on 65 for 2, Sri Lanka were bowled out for 180 in their second innings. And that's before tea on day 4, despite 64 from Kusal Pereira. Debutant Wanindu Harasang also chipped in with 59, but the touring team never threatened to make South Africa bat again. Fast bowler Luto Sipamla claimed 2 for 24 on test debut, while Lungi Ngidi and Anrik Nortje and Wiana Mulder also took 2 wickets each. Dhananjaya De Silva did not bat for Sri Lanka after injuring his calf in the first innings. The final test in Johannesburg starts on January 3. Chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, Solomon Sharp, says the possibility exists for the promoting company to be listed on the local stock exchange. This as the local promoters seek to grow the sport, and sharing is also calling. Sharp is also calling on the government to give them a tax-free period on the duties associated with the importation of horses. Here's Denise Waters.
Local promoters of horse racing SVRL says with an eye towards increasing revenue stream and improving the sport, they're seeking other opportunities to grow the local racing product at Caymanes Park. Speaking recently to TVJ Sports, chairman of SVRL Solomon Sharp said the plan is not just to improve the product for the horsemen, but the punters as well.
Caymanes Park is an iconic brand. We want every Jamaican to be able to own an iconic brand like Caymanes Park. So yes, that is definitely on the cards. So we're creating millionaires recently, and we want to create different millionaires in a whole different way. So
Sharp also said plans are afoot to have 2 racing seasons with more than 100 races per year. However, the horse population, among other things, will have to improve.
It's not just better horses. We need more horses. Right now, the population at Caymanas Park is about 1,100. The breeders can only breed so much and no more. We do not have enough racing. So with the racing that we have now, in order for it to grow this to the $15 billion industry that I'm talking about, you need to get to that next jump, to move to 1,500 horses, to move to 2,000 horses, to move to 3,000 horses.
For years, stakeholders at Caymanas Park have been lobbying the government to remove all taxes associated with the importation of horses into the island. Sharp is asking the government for at least 5 years without taxation to help turn things around.
Over the years, they had reduced the duty, but the horses just didn't come in because given that there's GCT and that's how the duty structure is, it's still proven to be a little bit prohibitive for mass expansion. So
currently, the importation fee on horses is at 22% aggregate duty. This includes 16.5% GCT and a 5.5% special consumption tax. Meanwhile, the average cost to buy a horse in the United States is approximately 1.4 million Jamaican dollars or US $10,000. Denise Walters for TVJ Sports.
Let's take another break. When we come back, we have got golf and football in the next segment.
Alright, we're back up on the break again. So as soon as them come from the commercial break, we'll go straight back over to the news. Alright? Alright. So yeah, we have discussed this story where the nurse, the Jamaican nurse who was living in the America, in USA, you know what I mean, for 20 years, had a traffic violation. You understand? And Alright, we're going back to the news, you know what I mean, them come back from the break already, so we'll discuss that shortly, isn't it?
Of the tournament.
The professionals drew first blood in the morning's 4-ball match play format 3-2 to lead by a point. The professional top-seeded pair of Wesley Brown and Al Robinson outclassed former JGA president Wayne Chai Chung and Tommy Lee in 15 holes. The match finished after Robinson's eagle putt missed the cup by 4 inches for them to win 5-3. However, the amateur pair of Sean Morris and Justin Borers created a major upset, beating Orville Christie and Raymond Brown 5-4 to level the tie at a point each. The amateur team went ahead 2-1 after William Nibbs and Mark Newnham defeated Martin Butt and Kevin McDonald 4-3. That was the final celebration as the professionals won the final 2 matches. Sean Green and Alan Graham beat Rocco Lopez and John O'Donoghue 2-1, with the lead changing throughout the first 14 holes before the professionals birdied the next 2 holes to level the tie at 2-all. The professionals finished the first session with the lead after Jonathan Newnham and Joel Campbell stopped teenagers Jack Steen and Siebert Walker Jr. 3-1. In the foursome alternate match play, the amateurs won the session 3-2 to tie the match at 5-all. Borers and Morris copped the double on the day over Green and Graham 2-1. Nibbs and Philip Prendergast beat Butt and McDonald 3-2, while Shemar Wilson and John Dunbar outplayed Michael Rowe and Kevin Nedrick 6-5. Once again, Wesley Brown and Al Robinson spared no mercy on their opponents, finishing their match against Lopez and O'Donoghue in 13 holes to win 5-4 to make it 2 from 2. Christie and Brown were the other winning pair for the pros after they beat Steen and Walker Jr. 3-2. Wednesday will mark the final round with the champion team receiving the Rose Cup.
As former national player Miguel Blair waits for a proper roof over his head, contributions towards a home have started to roll in. The latest contribution came from past players of Veer Technical, most of whom were Blair's teammates during his time at the Clarendon-based school.
A total of $201,000 was collected from former students of Veer Technical in a 4-week drive. The money will be used to clear back taxes on the land occupied by Blair, where the remainder will go towards his meals. Huntley Green, a former Santos FC representative and a teammate of Blair, received the check and will be the man responsible for providing Blair's daily meals.
When the check run out, I will still continue because I can't leave him to be hungry. Right? And whatever I can do, I am always willing to help.
Former JFF president Cranston Boxhill was manager of the Veer team when Blair played.
This is just the beginning. As you can see, it's pure dirt. The tax alone is nearly $50,000 that's going to come out at the $200,000 and food. So this is just the beginning. Thanks to VAIR, but we want to really appeal to other people, former Santos players, VAIR technical past students who have not contributed to the fund yet.
The Unsung Ones Foundation has been pushing for the work at Water Street in downtown Kingston to be done, which will see a house being constructed for Blair.
The Food for the Poor requires the last tax receipt from the land. So we weren't in receipt of that. So now this funding can help to offset that so that we can carry we have a farm that Food for the Poor give us to full out. So we can full it out now and move forward with now that we have the land tax paper.
Recently, JFF President Michael Ricketts made a commitment to help, but is yet to give any support.
What the JFF cannot do is to physically hand an individual a check. So we're waiting on the Players Association to form themselves in a recognized group. And Neville Oxford, Ali McNabb, Denzel Wilkes and I have all been having discussions in this regard. So once they are ready, we're going to proceed.
Blair was a former player at VAIR, Santos and the national team. Jordan Fort, TVJ Sports.
Thank you, Jordan. And finally this evening, Marcus Rashford scored a stoppage time winner over Wolverhampton in Champions on 20 points. And Leeds United crushed West Brom 5-0 at the Hawthorns. Burnley heaped more misery on Sheffield United with a 1-0 win to ensure the Blades remained winless at the foot of the table. And Southampton battled to a goalless draw with West Ham United. With that, we take another break. When we come back, we'll have the recap.
Primetime Sports.
All right, so we're going to another break. You know what I mean? You know the procedure. As soon as the break come up, as soon as commercial is playing, we're going to go over to our next story. You know what I mean? All right, so the story that we're covering, you know what I mean, is the Jamaican nurse, you know what I mean, that was deported after her fallopian tubes were forcefully, you know what I mean? I say forcefully because she did not know that it was going to happen. You understand? They took out her tubes and deported her back to Jamaica. She left 4 children over in the United States who depend on her to provide for them. You understand? And now she's confused. She's now in Jamaica. You know what I mean? So the question I'm asking is, who look out for our citizens in this regard? Does our government take it on their hand to lobby the American government on behalf of our sister here who has been unjustly treated and sent back home? You know what I mean? Who do that? You know what I mean? I know a place that does that, you know. That is the ISUPK, you know. We stand for our people regardless, you know what I mean? Small or great, you understand? But where is our government? Why hasn't our government come out and said we condemn the act of the United States and we demand that our sister be reunited with her children and that she be compensated for the injustice that took place? Why aren't our government speaking on behalf of this beautiful lady? Why is that not happening? You understand? So realize that we don't really get no justice. We are like, you know what I mean? We are like forgotten children. You understand? Nobody care about us, not even our own government. You understand? So, you know what I mean? What we want to do, you know, because remember me telling you, we are a channel of solutions. And we know the solution to things like this. You understand? We in the ISUPK. So what we want to do, we want to go over to isupk.com. You know what I mean? Download the app. You understand? We want to go up on ISUPK YouTube channel, Facebook, follow it, because we have the solution for our people. You get to me I say? Yeah man, this is not a gossip and news carrying channel. You understand? This is a solution channel. Alright, back to the news.
The Maverick there, perusing these 2 West Indies squads for the upcoming test and ODI tour of Bangladesh. Of course, the big news is that all of 12 senior players have opted out of this tour, citing COVID fears and our personal reasons. And it just struck me that the IPL was recently played in that part of the world. We don't hear no player pull out of the IPL for COVID concerns. Quite a few West Indians were in the Sri Lankan T20 League. Some are now playing in the Australian Big Bash. None of them no pull out of any of those tournaments for personal reasons or for COVID fears. You know, see the cricket on it. I take with a phone. Yes. And when some of us say this generation of players are using West Indies cricket like a foot mat, people say me this and me that. Yes. But just looking through the squad, there are two categories here. One set of players, like the veterans like Blackwood and Bradthwaite and Roach and Gabriel, who don't have no T20 franchise contract. So they want to eat this as a small food. And of course, the youngsters who are using this as a stepping stone. This is hardly a squad of players committed to and inspired by the West Indies cause. I tell you this, the full story of West Indies cricket in 2020 is being told right here in these squads. Yes. You just need to read between the lines. Yes, just check it, the full story.
Sports commentary brought to you by.
Alright, so remember to subscribe to the channel, you know what I mean? We do the live streaming, you get what me I say? You don't know what we live stream, you don't watch it now, you get me? Yeah man. Share, you know what I mean? You don't blow up the chat, you know what I mean? Give an opinion, you know what I mean? And another thing, you see if you don't have stories where you think is suitable for me to cover on this channel, you can just send me the link them, you get me? Just leave the link them under the comment section under any one of the video them. You know what I mean? And if we develop, you know what I mean, that kind of band there, probably me shut on my email address. You know what I mean? You can send them thing there to me, you know what I mean? And you don't know whoever send me a topic or a video on a topic that is important. You get what me I say? I go and shout out to on the channel, big one up. You get what me I say? Alright, back over to the news now.
I am Deidran. Minister Marian Hall to return to dancehall? Well, Minister Hall made the proclamation on her Facebook Live over the weekend. In the video, she chastised Christians for being too timid and allowing the devil to drag their names without response.
Listen to this headline. Minister Hall returning to dancehall. How does that sound? I know a lot of you worried now, a lot of you ready to judge and all that. I'm not returning to dancehall, but what the devil thought he was going to do to hurt me, I'm going to use that right there because God placed something in my spirit. God is about to create havoc.
She was responding to her critics on the heels of a viral video showing her in studio recording a song in response to allegations that she was involved in Obia and used it to hold back fellow female dancehall artist Spice.
Me soon alright. No money now run, but me soon alright. Me know me blessing it a come, so me soon alright. Them interfere with the Holy Ghost anointing. Hey, me say, from me man, me no go Obia man. When me see them, me say, what's up, Obia man? I was recording some nights ago, people of God, and people all over, and the lyric that came out of my mouth, it exceeds my expectation because I didn't know I had that in me. I know I can preach now and I know the word, yeah. But what was coming out, it was all on God.
Marian Hall, formerly known as dancehall artist Lady Saw, says people can look out for her returning to the dancehall in January of next year as she plans to go into the dancehall to win some souls. She converted to Christianity back in 2015. That's it for ePrime this evening. I'm Deidran. Thank you for watching.
Whether you're a new driver, now you can renew your policy.
Alright, so for everybody just joining us, every time a commercial break come up, we're going to go over to this story. You get to me, I say. Remember to subscribe, remember to like, remember to share, remember to comment. You know what I mean? We are live stream the news and we're going to other stories as well. One of these stories are the Jamaican nurse who was deported after ICE agents or ICE doctor remove her fallopian tubes. You understand? And what we are crying for the lady is justice. We are say, why our government not come out and speak out about this? You understand? Where is our government? You know what I mean? Or where is the opposition? You know what I mean? Nobody is speaking on behalf of this lady. You understand? We need high up officials to speak and lobby the US government on behalf of this lady because she was unjustly treated. You understand? Alright. With that being said, me know none of that now gonna happen. You understand? Me know none of that now gonna happen, you know. Because our government is afraid of the US government. So the US know that them can do anything to our citizens, you know what I mean, or our people, you know what I mean, because the same people them they are foreign to, you know, you see, the black people them are foreign, the same people as we, you know. You understand? We come from one family, you know, you see me? Yeah man, we are the children of Israel, you know. You understand? So we know that we get ill-treated and nobody stand up for us. You know what I mean? The ISUPK is the only place where black people are defended. You understand? Alright, back over to the news.
Yes, tonight, generally fair skies across most of the area, but we do still have some clouds going across in the trades. We're expecting temperatures to reach about 23 degrees Celsius for Kingston, dropping to 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay. It's partly cloudy in the morning, also in the afternoon, with high temperatures reaching 31 degrees Celsius in Kingston and 30 degrees Celsius for Montego Bay. Now, the breakdown has windy conditions and partly cloudy skies covering most of the southeast as well as south central sections of the island. Similar conditions in the southwest, but in the northeast, we're looking for continued clouds and showers. Strong winds are also likely to persist across much of the north. Expect showers in Ocho Rios and St. Anne's Bay with clouds in Brownstown and Falmouth, while it's partly cloudy further west in Montego Bay and Lucy. Now, generally fair and windy conditions are expected after Thursday. Conditions continue into Sunday. A small craft warning stays in effect for inshore areas of the north coast tomorrow. The winds are reaching 25 knots out of the northeast and lifting wave heights to 2.5 meters. On the south coast tomorrow, we're expecting southeasterly winds at 15 to 20 knots, with wave heights being between 1.5 and 2 meters. And then offshore, the small craft warning also stays in effect for northeasterly winds, gusting to 25 knots and lifting waves to 2.5 meters. In our outlook, we're expecting that 25-knot wind regime to persist out of the east on Thursday as well as Friday and Saturday. The sunset in Kingston tomorrow is at 5:42, and in Grill, the sunset is at 5:48. That's where we leave you this evening with the weather report and forecast, but stay tuned, we have a news recap after the break.
Alright, so for all those just joining us, you know what I mean, remember to like, subscribe, you know what I mean, blow up the chat with in the comments. You understand? We are live stream the news. So when you want to like, comment, subscribe, when you want to click the notification button so that whenever we go live, when you get the notification. Because we know say yo, many of you live abroad and you can't get access to Jamaican news over there. You understand? We are that place. You understand? Where you can get your local news. And with other news, you get bonus, you get top up. You understand? Because we go into stories that the news tend to do cover sometimes, as well as we go in depth. You understand? And give Uno the opportunity to chime in on many of these. You understand? And we provide solutions. And the solution is the ISUPK. You understand? Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. I want to go over there. I want to like the video them. I want to subscribe. I want to watch the classes, because we are the only people them who defend our people, which is blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You understand me? We defend our people. We don't have no government nowhere, you know. The Jamaican government is not your government, you know. If you tell yourself say your government, a lie you are telling them. You know what I mean? If America say jump, our government say oh I. So we don't have a government. You understand? As well as the next party, because none of the party them doing better. You understand? That is another discussion. Alright, so I'm going to play that tape here one more time. The news basically finished. I just the recap them I'm going to play. So I'm going to play the story and then we're going to sign out. You know what I mean? Big up to everybody we're joining with today. We're going to do the same thing tomorrow. Live again. If you don't see it tomorrow, you'll see it the next day. You understand? You know the thing go.
out, but they increasingly are. We're going to go right now to Wendy Dow, who's testified that while she was detained at Irwin, Dr. Amin told her she had large cysts and pushed her to get a hysterectomy, which she refused, but he still performed a surgery that left her unable to have children. Doctors later told her the procedure was completely unnecessary. She's originally from Jamaica, lived in the U.S. for more than 20 years, has 4 U.S.-born children. She was deported in May. Wendy, if you can tell us what happened to you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thank you so much.
September of 2018, I went to court for a traffic violation. And after that, they put, I got arrested. They put an ICE hold on me. So I ended up in Irwin County. I was there for a year and 6 months with stomach pain. I went in there with hypertension, and I had stomach pain, and I have a hernia. So I made a claim to the medical department, and they didn't do anything until one day. They came for me, didn't know where I was going. They woke me up 5 o'clock. And when I went there, it was Dr. Admin. He performed X-ray and a sonogram on me and told me that I got multiple cysts in me. So I asked him what that meant. He didn't answer. So after the point, he told me that I got a mass in my ovary. I'm like, what is that? He says, it's a mass that grows in your ovary. You don't know if it's cancerous, but it's a mass. I went back to the facility. I spoke to the nurses about that. They said they don't know because Dr. Admin didn't send them any type of paperwork as yet. So I think it's a couple weeks after that, they woke me up again 5 o'clock that morning. I went to Dr. Admin again. That told me that I got a size of the cantaloupe in my ovary. That is cancerous. By then, I was like shaky and crying, and I asked him, what caused this, and he said he can't tell me because he was hired through ICE, and he got to send the paperwork back to the facility. So when I went back to the facility, I spoke to the nurses, sent multiple papers to them, multiple papers. They never answer until I think this is a cause of the stress that I couldn't see out of my eyes. My blood pressure was all the way up, and my vision was lost. And next morning again, they came, another morning, 5 o'clock, told me I'm going to the doctor. I thought it was for what I was going through. When I went to the doctor, they told me I had surgery. But basically what I'm going through, I was like out of my mind and wasn't, concentrating on what they were saying because I had headache, couldn't see out of my eyes or anything.
So the doctor cut your fallopian tubes?
Yeah, when I woke up, I noticed that I couldn't wake up at all because I was on anesthesia. When I went back to the facility, I didn't know as yet. I noticed there were 3 holes in my stomach. So I was asking them, what is this? They say I got surgery, but they don't know what type of surgery I had. After request the medical paper, they brought it back to me. That's when I know that my fallopian tubes was out.
And then how much later were you deported to Jamaica, where we're speaking to you now in Kingston?
After that, I think it was a couple months after that.
And your kids still in the United States? They are U.S. citizens?
They were in the United States with a friend. I had a 11-year-old that she's disabled. I had a 14-year-old at the time. She's turned 14 now, but she was 12. And I had a 15-year-old. So they were with a friend at the time.
I wanted to go, Wendy, back.
So, how was the doctor? Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me, Elizabeth, what you're old and you haven't seen her since she was 4 months? Is that right?
Correct. Yes, that's right. I have not seen her. I want out of
Many women are telling your story. Wendy, you're deported as Elizabeth is inside the jail. You were held there until you were sent back, having been sterilized by the same doctor. Wendy Dow, what are you calling for?
I'm calling for the shutdown of Erin County. I'm calling for changes. People with like minor offense, people that's been in the country for decades, people that don't know, like your country, even though you're born there, you don't know the country. People don't go through the same thing like we went through, because I got 4 U.S. citizen children. My children went through hell. I'm in Jamaica now. They can't get the doctor help they need. Financially, I can't support them. When my daughter got Medicaid in America, she got Medicaid because she's a disabled child.
Large cyst and pushed her to get a hysterectomy, which she refused, but he still performed a surgery that left her unable to have children. Doctors later told her the procedure was completely unnecessary. She's originally from Jamaica, lived in the U.S. for more than 20 years, has 4 U.S.-born children. She was deported in May. Wendy, if you can tell us what happened to you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thank you so much.
September of 2018, I went to court for a traffic violation. And after that, they put, I got arrested. They put an ICE hold on me. So I ended up in Erin County. I was there for a year and 6 months with stomach pain. I went in there with hypertension. And I had stomach pain and I have a hernia. So I made a claim to the medical department. And they didn't do anything until one day. They came for me, didn't know where I was going. They woke me up 5 o'clock. And when I went there, it was Dr. Admin. He performed X-ray and a sonogram on me and told me that I got multiple cysts in me. So I asked him what that meant. He didn't answer. So after the point, he told me that I got a mass in my ovary. I'm like, what is that? He says, it's a mass that grows in your ovary. You don't know if it's cancerous, but it's a mass. I went back to the facility. I spoke to the nurses about that. They said they don't know because Dr. Admin didn't send them any type of paperwork as yet. So I think it's a couple weeks after that, they woke me up again 5 o'clock that morning. I went to Dr. Admin again. That told me that I got a size of the cantaloupe in my ovary. That is cancerous. But then I was like shaky, crying, and asked him, cause this, and he can't tell me because he was hired ICE and he got to send the paperwork back to the facility. So when I went back to the facility, I spoke to the nurses, sent multiple papers to them, multiple papers. They never answer until I think this is a cause of the stress that I couldn't see out of my eyes. My blood pressure was all the way up and my vision was lost. And next morning again, they came, another morning, 5 o'clock, told me I'm going to the doctor. It was for what I was going through. When I went to her, they told me I had surgery. But basically what I'm going through, I was like on mine and wasn't, concentrating on what they were saying because I had headache, couldn't see out of my eyes or anything.
So the doctor cut your fallopian tubes?
Yeah, when I woke up, I noticed that I couldn't wake up because I was on anesthesia. When I went back to the facility, I didn't know it. I noticed there were holes in my stomach. So I was asking them, what is this? They say I got surgery, but they don't know what surgery I had. After request the medical paper, they brought it back to me. That's when I know that my fallopian tubes was out.
And then how much later were you deported to Jamaica, where we're speaking to you now in Kingston?
After that, I think it was a couple months after that.
And your kids still in the United States? They are U.S. citizens?
They were in the United States with a friend. I had a 11-year-old that she's disabled. I had a 14-year-old at the time. She's turned 14 now, but she was 12. And I had a 15-year-old. So they were with a friend at the time.
I wanted to go, Wendy, back.
So, how was the doctor?
Can you tell me, Elizabeth, what you're old and you haven't seen her since she was 4 months? Is that right?
Correct. Yes, that's right. I have not seen her. I want what I want out of.
Many women are telling your story. Wendy, you're deported as Elizabeth is inside the jail. You were held there.